Welcome to Second Chance Points. I'm Dave Rudin. We're doing the podcast because of the Monday, Wednesday schedule this week. We're doing it on Tuesday because we kind of figured yesterday's games, if we did a podcast yesterday by last night, it might be outdated. And boy, would it have been outdated. Before we kind of bounce around to another candidate for craziest night this season, welcome my co-host, Colin Devine. Colin, thanks again for joining me.
Glad to be here. I think this is week 4 or week 5, but thanks for having me back.
So, and by the way, Mike Walsh continues a speedy recovery. In fact, he and I spoke last night after the games, and we'll see when he returns. But Colin, this is how my day went yesterday. I was planning on covering the joining you at Staples for the Ward Staples game. Late afternoon, I was working on another story, and I decided I wanted to try to get this person for an interview last night. I kind of figured Ward Staples was going to play out as it did, which is what happened. Ward winning by 7 points in a game that really wasn't that close, and a good late run by Staples. And there were really 3 big games last night that were going to influence the standings. As it turned out, it was 4. And I just said, I'm gonna watch all the streams of the games, and then I'll write a story based on what happened. And boy, by about 9 or 10 o'clock last night, everything really changed. Before we kind of pick apart the games, I feel like we keep beating on this note, but games each night is crazier and crazier.
Yeah, we said it 2 weeks ago, or you said it 2 weeks ago. Every coach, every player has got to treat a game like a playoff game. And I think you said it 4 weeks ago. We really don't know. Maybe 1 or 2 spots, 1 and 2, the FCA playoffs are solidified. But 3 through 10, we have no idea.
It's wide open, and now the pool's become deeper with losses by Staples and a shocking loss by Wilton yesterday. Let's just we got to talk about the meteoric rise of Brien McMahon, which is playing great basketball to make a run to solidify its playoff hopes, and Stamford as well, which in a classic triple overtime game with Trumbull yesterday got a win. Two teams really desperate to get in the playoffs and played that way. But first of all, the Ward Staples game, Ward stock continues to rise with its 10th straight win, a 51-44 decision over Staples. Part of the reason, I didn't go to the game, you're there all the time. I'm watching Staples now. I feel like I'm in Groundhog Day. I feel like all the games are really pretty much the same right now. You're going to get a strong showing from Chris Ajak, and you don't know if you're going to get anything from the pool of guards that we talked about. And Ward turned out to be a bad matchup for them just because Ward is playing such great defense right now.
Yeah, another really all-league performance from Plesser. Our book said he had 20, but I'll defer to you. You said he had 18. I'll defer to you.
I got that from. I'll go by the home book. I actually got that from Ryan Swaller.
He played a great game. I was really impressed by Nelson hitting some big shots late down the stretch. Kramer with another performance, but their team defense on Zajac, they were doubling down from the strong side, and then they would tag each other. Then the double come from the weak side. Zajac made some good passes. Staples made a couple shots late. But I think Staples just got off to a rough start, and it was too much to overcome. And you got to credit Coach Swaller and Ward's defense in the first half. And they came out hot. I think they made 5 of their first 7 shots, and they played a really complete basketball game, minus that last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter. And in my opinion, unfortunately for the Staples fans, that the game was already decided.
Yeah, Ward kind of came out. I know Staples was all pumped up for the home game and a sort of rivalry game and another top team in the standings, and Ward just kind of hit him right off the bat, built an 18-point lead. The one thing about Staples is you're going to get 32 hard minutes out of them, and you look at how things are right now. It's a good thing that you got 32 minutes out of them, because if they hadn't come back and beaten Trumbull last week, their outlook would be even a little bit more dire than it is now. And it's not really dire. They still have their control of their destiny. But teams are really mixing up and finding creative ways to contain Zajac. And
but Dave still had 20, 14, and 3 blocks.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You look at him and you said he was quiet last night, but I'll tell you what, I don't see Staples being a factor. That I've sort of sold my Staples stock right now, and I think they're going to need even more from Zajac to have any chance to be successful in the playoffs.
I think he can still do it. Obviously, a former player of mine, but maybe he needs like a Kemba Walker-like performance of a post player to get in the tournament to win 3 games in 3 days. And, we talked earlier about the 4 through 8 seeds. Obviously, if the standings hold true, you really want to avoid Ward on the first Saturday of the playoffs. From experience, I can tell you that. But after that, really, it's an open season for the playoffs. And I think it's anybody's tournament once you get in that can win 3 games.
I don't know if this will play out now after what happened with Wilton, but I mean, would you rather play Ward in the first round if Ward's, let's say, a 3rd seed, or would you rather have to go a Staples Wilton first round game with the winner getting Ridgefield in the semifinals?
I think all the coaches, just from experience, I'd rather avoid Ward at Ward.
Nobody wants to play Ward, and then nobody wants.
No one wants to play Wilton, but you're glad to be there because it's the semifinals, not the semifinals, and you're going to have to beat 2 really good teams to win the whole thing anyway.
Yeah, I again with the and to me right now it's a 3-team race, which means the way the season has gone, either Staples or Wilton will win it. But outside of Ridgefield, Danbury, and Ward, I don't see another team right now that's capable of winning 3 games in a row. Like I said, Zajac, he's going to have to go Bill Walton for 3 games as a possible. Jeremiah Livingston did it years ago, but he was a guard and Zajac's a center. But it's possible. That's the only hope I see for Staples. And we're talking about Wilton. Yesterday, I decided, because of the way all the games played out, I was going to do just a general story. And I wrote everything up, and I didn't have a Wilton score. And I wrote up the story as Wilton had won. And then, before I posted it, you're a reporter, you make sure you're printing factual information. So I sent Joel Gariak, the Wilton coach, a text. I said, I assume you won. And the response was nope. And then, he went on to tell me about, what another lackluster performance by Wilton, and they lost to Bridgeport Central 59-54. Coming off a 30-point loss to Darien, it's just kind of puzzling to figure out what's going on in Wilton.
Yeah, that one was shocking. The Darien score by the margin was shocking, not the victory, because in a league like we have this year, anybody can beat anybody in a given night, but the disparity in the score was. And I haven't seen Central a whole lot, and so last night's win was shocking. And not to get off Wilton right now, but you really got to credit Coach LaPrade and McMahon, because you and I argued about the 4 o'clock upset, how big of an upset it really would be.
That's not an upset anymore.
And he's not. No, he's strung together some really, really good wins. And you got to credit Coach Melzer's defense. Another time he holds the teams in the 30s and loses because he's not getting that offensive performance in the 4th quarter. But you got to credit McMahon's players and coaches for putting a really good second half of the season together.
Yeah, I was going to bounce. That was my next stop on this road trip from yesterday. But I mean, right now, the way you look at everything, you've got 3 teams that are in, and you've got 7 teams that are battling for 5 spots right now. But what do you make of Wilton? It's just,
the way Coach Gariak coaches his players to rise to the occasion, you do have to give him a little bit of home court advantage. If he can get into the quarterfinals, he's going to find a way, hopefully, in his opinion. And I think that he's got a good chance of getting into the semifinals and finals. He just wants to get to home court and see what happens.
He wants to get in right now and see what happens. I mean,
that's a good point.
There's 4 teams at 7 and 5 right now.
Who do they have left? I thought
they still have to play Greenwich, Ludlow, and Danbury. So you got to figure. You look at it, probably 2-1 right there. You look at Staples. They got Norwalk, St. Joe's, and Darien. St. Joe's and Darien to me they're favored, but those aren't the certainties that you thought they were maybe a week ago. The other 7 and 5 teams, and I want to talk about McMahon in a second, but McMahon's got to go. McMahon's got a tough schedule. They got to go Trumbull, Ward, and Ludlow. So yeah, I'm actually going to go to see McMahon play Trumbull tomorrow night in an interesting game. And then Stamford's 7 and 5, and they've got Darien in a huge game tomorrow. That might be a knockout game. And then they got Norwalk and Ridgefield. You got to figure they'll split Norwalk and Ridgefield.
Yeah.
So
and then they have the tiebreaker over Trumbull.
Right. So yeah, Wilton's just a puzzling team. I saw them against Ridgefield. They lost. You know, Tommy McKiernan was back to being Tommy McKiernan. I gather from what Joel was texting, he had a bad shooting game last night, but it's just, I don't know what the problem is. Wilton teams usually play hard, but yeah, again, they're Staples and Wilton these last couple of weeks are kind of puzzling teams, and maybe we overrate that. Both those teams have a whole bunch of guards, and maybe we just we looked at the glass half full and it's been the glass half empty.
Well, with Wilton in the 3-point shot and the way they've played, the style of play, I really don't think you can count them out, especially McKiernan. They had the post players stepping out, shooting threes against Staples. So with the 3-point shot, shooting makes up for a lot of mistakes. So I'm not going to count them out yet, or Staples.
No, I'm not counting them out. I just thought they'd be in a much safer position.
That's fair. No, I don't. I
didn't think they'd be scrambling with 3 games to go. I'm not counting either one of them out by any means. I'd be a little surprised if neither of them are, if either of them don't make the playoffs. I would find that still surprising, but it doesn't portend well for how they're going to do if they get to the playoffs. Right now, they both had high hopes in December, and they haven't been realized yet. You started to get into then and going to McMahon, and McMahon's just they've won 4 in a row right now. McMahon's played their way. Credit. I haven't talked about the Senators. I haven't given the Senators any love at all this season, and that's on me. They're making me, as many teams often do, look bad. But Grant, I was watching the game. Grant Matkins. In fact, Mike Walsh and I were talking while the game's going on, and we're saying they're not going to get a shot off. They're not going to get a shot off. And then Grant Matkins from the wing hits a 3-point shot for a 34-31 game. You bet the under whenever you're playing New Canaan right now. Yeah. Those are the weirdest scores. You would think they're playing 4 corners, but they're struggling on offense, but they're getting the teams that they're playing against to play at the same tempo. They're dictating tempo. Unfortunately, they're not maximizing possessions and dictating tempo. And New Canaan's been a disappointment to me also. I thought they were going to have an easier time to get in the playoffs, and they're one of the 3 6-6 teams right now, and their schedule, they got Ludlow, Trumbull, and Greenwich. So they're going to have one game at least against a team that's scrambling to get in. But that was another weird game. But credit McMahon for finding ways to win these last 2 weeks. They were.
So does New Canaan and Trumbull control their own destiny? Can they go 2 out of 3 and get in?
You know what? I haven't, with so many teams, I haven't
That's
even
why I asked. Yeah.
And you know what? Right now, it's almost impossible. You know who's in the best tiebreaker situation right now is your old team, because they beat Ridgefield. So if they have
the best win.
If they get in a 2-team tiebreaker, they don't have the tiebreaker with Wilton. They don't have it with Stamford. They don't have it with McMahon. So and a head-to-head tiebreaker. But if they get into a multi-team tiebreaker, it goes who beat the highest seed, and that win over Ridgefield is going to really help them. They'll get the highest available seed in a multi-team tiebreaker.
And who does Ridgefield have tomorrow?
Ridgefield. I didn't even put down the Ridgefield games just because they're kind of a given to me right now, and well, I actually saved like the top 3 teams for last because I saw them on Friday. But The other team again, Stamford and Trumbull, and yeah, it was both those teams really needed a win, and both those teams played with the sense of urgency. EJ Presley led a balanced attack with 20 points. Presley's been playing really well the last couple of weeks to lead Stamford, and it's their trio with JJ Salvatore and Jeremiah Winchester, and they were both in double figures. And then Trumbull, they finally got that monkey off their back against a team in playoff contention with St. Joe's. And then they lose another one yesterday. Sean Reset went off and scored 32 points for them. But now Trumbull's in a 6-6 position, and they've got McMahon and New Canaan. So they got two 50-50 games. And actually they're playing Central. I'm calling Central a 40-60 game right now, because Central is improved, and they got the win last night. So I don't know who of this pack of 7 teams, is there anybody you really
I think
like?
just looking at all the scores and all the results and the comparable teams playing each other, I don't think anybody can predict this at all, which is exciting for all the kids, the coaches, the fans, parents. We have 3 games left, and no one's going to know how it's going to shake out to the last day, which is really exciting.
Yeah, the team that's got the toughest road, and they don't have as many quality wins, though they've been beating the teams that are 50-50 games, or Darien. Darien's got Stamford, Ridgefield, and Staples. So that's you got 2 teams that are battling with them to get in, and you got the probable number 1 seed. Yes, Darien and McMahon have played their way in, and they have the most difficult schedule. And it's who's going to win these 50-50 games. Who of all these 7 teams right now, it's going to come down to who in the head-to-head games, who wins them.
Yeah, I think, obviously I completely agree with that point. Staying healthy, want to avoid some illness. You want to play well on the road, play well at home. So it's going to be interesting. That's for sure.
And then, we go up top, and we've got Ridgefield, Danbury, and Fairfield Ward sitting pretty right now. Let's talk a little bit. Just Ward has won 10 games in a row. You got to see him last night, and it's hard to believe that they lost to Ridgefield by 30 points. And in a game I was at, it's 2 different Ward teams right now. I think the big difference was they're not totally dependent on Plesser. Now they're getting more balanced scoring, where Staples is more dependent on Zajac. Ward has gotten a little bit better supporting play right now. Melson has stepped up, like you said, Kramer. They're just playing, they're playing Ridgefield style defense right now. Those are, the 2 best defensive teams in the league. And they're getting guard play. Everybody thought guards and turnovers were going to be a weakness, and that hasn't been the case. What did you think of?
I've had the opportunity to see them on film a few times. I saw them in person in a quality win at Trumbull 2 weeks ago. And then I saw last Friday, and I saw them last night at Staples. And you had mentioned this about Wilton and Ridgefield getting deep rotations to their bench. Swaller, I looked at the book, has actually extra lines. You only have 15 people in the book. He's got 17, 18. And I think he probably got 12 or 13 players in the game last night. So that really impressed me. The balanced scoring, the great defense, unselfishness. I think they sleptwalked a little bit at the end of the basketball game, made some careless mistakes. Other than that, they played a complete basketball game. And like I said earlier, shared the basketball, great team defense, making the extra pass. And then they're shooting the ball with confidence too, which is really timely going into the playoffs.
They pass the ball, they move the ball well, they find the open player. There was a play last night. Now I made note of who the player was, and I can't remember, but there was one play when they were building the lead where Plesser was coming down, and almost any other player would have just gone to the basket, and he probably would have had an easy lane. And instead he gave the ball off to a sophomore who he thought had a better shot, open 3, and the kid hit it. I forget his name now. Plusser has the high, and Mike and I said the same thing last night. Plusser has the highest basketball IQ in the FCIAC, which isn't surprising because he's a 4.5 student, and he might have the highest IQ off the court as well. This is someone who could be playing at MIT possibly next year. I'm serious, not just that's a possibility, not just naming a good school, but he's just such a smart player. He's fun to watch.
Yeah, both sides of the ball. And you can even see the way him and Coach Swaller communicate what's going to happen next and the leadership. And, you and I argued a little bit about last Friday at Trumbull. I wanted to be more selfish. And
we never argue. We never argue.
No, he came back with the answer of, no. I know I can score, but to win this thing, I got to get my teammates involved. And I think that goes to the great leader that he is and his basketball IQ and his human IQ to figure out what he has to do to win championship. And it's been fun to watch him play the last 3 games.
The other thing we haven't talked about, which is I thought was really interesting, Ryan put Plusser on Zajac to start the game.
Yeah.
What does that say about your confidence in him not to get into foul trouble? You're figuring, wow, Zajac, you post him up twice, you get 2 fouls on him early, and you get him out of the game. And again, that gets to his basketball IQ. He was smart. He made Chris had a few bunnies that spun out because of the good defense, but there are also some times where you knew Zajac was going to score and Plusser didn't make the stupid foul on the play.
Yeah, he did a good job kind of cat and mouse and walling up and putting pressure and backing up and getting kicked. Zajac got off his timing. He did a really good job there. And then Ward's length at the guard really did a gave Staples a tough time getting the shot off a little bit, and then the pressure in the full court and conversion. I was really impressed by Ward's defense. I said it for the 3rd time now, but it really needs to be commended.
I came away from yesterday. I was going in saying Ridgefield and a healthy Danbury 1-2. Maybe, I could see Ward. I'm putting Ward on that top line with them right now. I'm not saying they're a favorite in those games, but I think those 3 are pretty much on the same pedestal right now.
You have to agree. You talked about, the total body of work, and Ward's winning all the 50-50 games. Even if they're a slight favorite, they're winning all the games. They're doing the work, both sides of the basketball, sharing it. So I totally agree with that.
I think they learned a lot from that loss. I remember, like I said, I was up in Ridgefield when they lost, and Ryan was kind of ticked off, and he didn't think the effort was there. And again, it's not a surprise that you go up to Tiger Hollow into the gymnasium and you lose, but losing by 30 points and talk about learning from defeat. Ward's been a different team since then, and then the Ridgefield machine just keeps on chugging along. They go into Wilton last week and come away with a comfortable win, in which again. You look at the scorebook, 10, 9, 8, 12, 9, 8. They're just getting my boy Ian Swiatowicz, and I checked with him to make sure I got his pronunciation right. You have to hit every letter with it's not Swat, it's Swiat. So I think they call him Sweet. So he's been the player that kind of caught my eye early in the season, and he hit 5 threes. And he was when Ridgefield made the run 2nd, 3rd quarter to pull away. That's when he hit his 5 threes, and he kind of helped open the game up. And Ridgefield, it's business as usual right now. We're sort of beating the dead horse, but it's a different Ridgefield team with so many players, but the end result's been the same.
Yeah, you got to credit Coach McClellan and his assistant coaches and his captains this year, because they're playing a different style of basketball that you alluded to. But really, you know what 2 things you're going to expect when you play against Richmond. They're going to defend, and they're going to block out and rebound, right? But when they get out in conversion and they're making shots, if they shoot a 3-point percentage over 40%, I don't see a whole lot of teams beating them, right? Shooting makes up for a lot of mistakes, and if they're shooting the ball well, it's their title to lose, in my opinion.
I'd kind of like to see a Ward Ridgefield rematch again. I hope it happens sometime in the tournament. But then again, I'd like to see a Danbury Ridgefield rematch too from their first 2 games, which were close games. And Danbury just keeps rolling along too. They had a big win, 40-point win over Norwalk last night. The big news coming out of Danbury was last week, Cam Perkins, a sprained ankle on Tuesday night. And I've been texting with Coach Casey Bach, and actually I saw him at the Ridgefield game, and actually kind of a funny, I was in the men's room, and then Casey came in, and so we're talking about his status, and he's saying, I hope he has him back for Wilton. And then Joel comes into the men's room too. And so we, whoever else was in there at the time got to hear the Cam Perkins status update. But Casey said he's hopeful that Cam will be back. He said for Wilton, I'm wondering if he is back for then, if they're just going to wait and hold him up until a week from Saturday and rest him to have him as close to 100% for the tournament.
Yeah, but either way, it's a good timeline. You never know with ankles nowadays, so I'm glad it's a short time out.
Yeah, I think Pat Mahomes showed us something about, though, a little different level, of apples and oranges there. But it's those top three teams have separated themselves, and they all play differently. I still would probably give Danbury a little bit of the edge in terms of starting five, Ridgefield and Ward in terms of depth. And it's just really, I think, an interesting dynamic right now. Again, Ridgefield wins out, they're going to be the 1 seed. So you could be looking at 2-3. If you're Ward or you're Danbury, you're going to have to, one of those teams is going to have to beat the other and then beat Ridgefield. If anybody does that, you've really earned a championship.
I agree 100%.
So as we wind up here, I don't know what to expect anymore. Like I said, after all this talk, the way this season is gone, Wilton's going to end up winning the championship on its home quarter. Joel's going to finally get that elusive title the way this season is gone. But any other thoughts? You going to be anywhere tomorrow night?
I got a curriculum open house tomorrow night, so I'll be watching on my computer. But no, it's been a crazy fun year, exciting for the kids, the coaches, the fans. We said it 4 or 5 weeks ago. It's going to come down to the final basketball game to figure out seeding, and then who knows what's going to happen in the tournament. And I think, in my opinion, that's all you can ask for.
Actually, we didn't get into, I'll close out with this, but we talked about coaching. Is it true after Sunday you can't win a big game?
Yeah, well, I wasn't there Saturday, but
you're going to use that excuse right now?
I'll use that as an excuse. But no, that's a fair assessment at this point.
Colin's their daughters, right?
My twin daughters playing 4th grade travel basketball.
Okay, and they each had championship games Saturday and Sunday, and there were no trophies, unfortunately, that
No.
brought home.
Better luck next year.
But lessons learned for 5th grade, right? They're gonna remember what happened. Did you tell them at dinner on Sunday night? Remember how you feel right now, because next year it's going to be different.
Something similar to that, yeah.
Yeah, it was more pasta nachos. We're watching the Super Bowl.
So,
well, Colin, thanks a lot for joining me. I don't know if this is possible, but let's see what happens if maybe we even with this Monday-Wednesday schedule, if I can get a sound editor, maybe a podcast on Thursday.
You got it.
Let me see if we can get my sound editor, and rather than wait from Wednesday to Monday, let's see if we can get an instant podcast. I'll look into that for us and everybody. But Colin, I'm sure crazy stuff's going to happen again tomorrow, and I look forward to having you along for the ride and joining me as we break it all down.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot. And again, that's this week's Second Chance Points. Again, thanks to Cooper Boardman as well for the sound editing. I'm tired of saying it was a crazy night, but it was a crazy night. We'll probably have one tomorrow, and we'll be back to talk about it real soon.